For this part of the project we will need a Raspberry Pi and a iRobot Create 2 or any custom land robot. If we want the optional navigation functionality, we will also need a camera for Raspberry Pi and a magnetometer sensor. The basic control will allow us to move remotely the robot forward and backward, left and right. First, we will install a Linux-based operative system in Raspberry Pi. I have used Raspbian, but any other that allows Python to work will do. Next, after installing Raspbian, we will need to enable SSH on Raspbian configuration. After that, we can power off and power on the Raspberry Pi without a screen and keyboard. Now, if our working home computer is Windows-based, then we will download WinSCP. That will allow us to connect with Raspberry Pi easily. Next, let's open a PuTTY session with Raspberry. We will run these 3 commands in order to update the system to work with Python. To check that the system is running properly, create the most basic example hello world. Next, we can start to work connecting with our robot. In our case, we are working with iRobot Create 2 that uses the serial port. Let's connect the serial port to the Raspberry and use the command ls usb to verify that the device is recognized. Now we need to install the Python library PySerial for our project, so we install it with the command sudo pip install PySerial. Additionally, we will also install WebSocket Server, because the mobile app will use WebSockets to send commands to the Raspberry. In the case we want automatic navigation between waypoints functionality, we will need to do the next section, but you don't need to do the next part if you plan to have only the basic control. Now we can forget for a while of the robot, so power off the Raspberry, disconnect it from the robot, turn it on again because we are going to work with the RaspiCam. The next step will be to install the camera. First, power off the Raspberry Pi and insert the camera in its slot. Power on the camera, log in with PuTTY and enable the camera in RaspiConfig. Use this command to capture an image, and this other command to capture 10 seconds of video. Next, related with the camera, we are going to install OpenCV, a library for image processing. The installation of OpenCV takes time. You can find the way I have followed to install a library following the tutorial from Tiziano Fiorenzani. Finally, after completing the OpenCV part, we still have another sensor to install before running the project. That is the magnetometer sensor. Before working with the hardware, go to RaspiConfig and enable I2C. That will enable the reading for the sensor. In order for this project to work, we need to know the orientation of the robot at any time. You can purchase any kind of these cheap sensors. Any will do the job. In my case, I have purchased BerryIMU sensor. These sensors were connected with the pins GPIO. So if you have successfully installed the sensor and you run the next command, you should get in the output the addresses of the components. Additionally, we will need to install Flask, a library that allows us to create a web server that the project will use to display a web page where we will see the RaspiCam camera stream. In conclusion, with this tutorial, we have set up all the framework on the side of the robot. In a next tutorial, we will explain how the code of our project works.